9 years of bloody and devastating war in Syria have killed at least 384,000 people, including more than 116,000 civilians, according to a tally published by the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights on Saturday, on the eve of the conflict entering its 10th year. Since mid-March 2011, Syria has been witnessing a bloody conflict, which started with peaceful and popular protests against the regime, calling for democracy and freedoms. The war caused the largest humanitarian tragedy since World War II, according to the United Nations, with the displacement of more than half of the population inside and outside the country. It also depleted the economy, its resources and infrastructure, and caused a record collapse in the value of the Syrian pound. The Syrian Observatory, which since the conflict began relying on a wide network of correspondents and sources in various regions, has documented the killing of at least 384,000 people since the outbreak of the conflict on 15 March 2011, until the Saturday morning, including more than 116,000 civilians. Among the civilian deaths were more than 22,000 children and 13,000 women. Regarding the non-civilian dead, the observatory counted the death of more than 129,000 members of the regime's forces and the armed fighters loyal to them of Syrian and non-Syrian nationalities. More than half of them are Syrian soldiers, including 1,697 members of the Lebanese Hezbollah, who have been fighting openly alongside Damascus since the year 2013. At least 57,000 fighters from the opposition and Islamic factions were killed and more than 13,000 from the Syrian Democratic Forces, of which the Kurdish units are the most prominent components. Last year, with American support, they eliminated the Caliphate of the Islamic State group. On the other hand, more than 67,000 Islamic State fighters and the Liberation Front for the Levant, formerly Al-Nusra Front, and foreign fighters from other militant factions have been killed. The observatory also documents the killing of 421 unidentified people since the outbreak of the conflict. These statistics include, according to the observatory, those who were able to document their deaths as a result of the bombing during the fighting, and do not include those who died as a result of torture in government prisons or missing and kidnapped persons in various quarters. It is estimated that there are more than 97,000 people. Beyond human casualties, since the conflict has caused enormous damage, the United Nations earlier estimated it cost about $400 billion. With the conflict beginning its 10th year, government forces have taken control of 70% of the area of Syria, and are deployed in areas controlled by Kurdish fighters in the northeast of the country, according to an agreement between the two parties that followed a Turkish attack on the border area in October. Regime forces launched a large-scale offensive, with Russian support, in recent months on areas in and around Idlib that are out of their control, leading to the flight of nearly 1 million people. In the largest wave of displacement since the conflict began, the regime forces now control more than half of the governorate area. The attack stopped after a ceasefire declared by Moscow in support of Damascus with Ankara in support of the armed factions, and began its implementation since the 6th of this month, according to which the battles stopped and the warplanes were absent from the air. Syria is witnessing a severe economic crisis with which the dollar exchange rate on the black market crossed the threshold of £1,000 recently, after it was equivalent to £48 before the outbreak of the conflict. Syrian officials blame this on the economic blockade and sanctions imposed by Western countries on Damascus for years.